Good Morning PD on Live 95, the PD's gathering place. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Good Morning PD Live 95. Takes Mondays to make Fridays. Hearing the political ads during the break, it's the only people in America who work tirelessly.
Politicians?
I've said this before. Coal miners don't work tirelessly. Construction workers do not work tirelessly. Only the great American public servant wants an opportunity to work tirelessly on your behalf. Hey, one of the great campaign slogans in the past decade that I've ever heard, and being, kind of involved in politics, I'm always interested in the slogans of the moment, was the guy that ran for New York City Council, and his entire campaign was based on the rent is too damn high. You remember the guy and some of the interviews he did during the debate, the rent is too damn high. They'd ask him about all these other things. The rent is too damn high. I've always been curious and interested about the amount of money you have to make to get ahead in certain cities and certain places across the country. We're very fortunate in South Carolina. It's an affordable city. You get around the coast. Some would disagree with that because it's gotten fairly expensive down there. But private wealth advisor Derrick Kinney is with us this morning to, in a more professional and articulate way, explain the factors that contribute to the differences in necessary salary to be considered wealthy in these and other cities around the country. Derrick, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Ken. Great to be with you.
And I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek. The rent is too damn high. It's funny, it's humorous, but in reality, it does speak to the dynamic of what it costs to afford to live a certain style of life in the different varying places across America.
You are so right. I'm here in the Dallas, Texas area, and we have a saying here in Texas that goes like this: big hat, no cattle. And there's often people I meet that look the part. They drive a car, they dress well, they have the house that looks like they have all the trappings of wealth. But when you dig into their finances, you realize quickly they're spending everything and possibly more than they're making. So just because you may look like you earn a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that you truly are rich.
Derrick, to that point, what are some of the factors that contribute? I mean, when the rent is too high, that's New York City, and I hear a lot of San Francisco about the enormous rent and the enormous price of real estate there. But what are some other factors that play into the Texas dynamic, the South Carolina dynamic, the New York or California dynamic?
Yeah, Ken, great question. A couple of key factors here. Obviously, the cost of housing dramatically impacts someone's ability to save money. Also, automobiles, the cost of education for their kids, and really just the cost of raising a family can eat up almost everything someone makes. To give you some perspective, in the North Carolina, South Carolina area, the median income is about $60,000 a year. So one may ask, well, what does it take to be in the top 1%? We often hear the top 1%, what do they earn, what do they make? That number in North and South Carolina is about $320,000. If you're making that much money, then you're in the top 1% of all earners, and that's really what it takes to be considered ultra rich in those areas. Now, again, someone making that much money may think, wow, that sounds like a lot of money, but how their lifestyle is set up, it's all based on what they're spending and what they're saving that really determines if they really feel rich.
Derrick, I've got a theory, and I'm not a private wealth advisor. I'm not a financial planner, but I've lived in the world for over half a century, and I've been involved in a lot of different businesses, and I kind of just plunder around and pay attention. I've got a theory that this snuck up on the American public. There was a day in America, and I'm from South Carolina, there was a day that the father could work at a textile plant, the mom could teach school, and if they behaved, the next thing you know, they'd send a kid to South Carolina, they'd send a kid to Clemson, and along came inflation, rampant inflation, and what I would argue was the misrepresenting of inflation to the American public. How when I say that this dynamic kind of snuck up on the American middle class, is that a fair something to say or not?
I think it is fair in the sense that not only inflation, but just higher expectations in terms of our generation wanting to provide more for our kids than perhaps were provided for us. And what I would liken that to, Ken, would be the keeping up with the Joneses theory, that as I counsel clients in my office, I'll often sit down and we talk eyeball to eyeball, and they say, look, so-and-so is sending their son or daughter to this school. I want to do the same thing. And I said, well, does so-and-so have the same job you do, the same income you do, the same goals you do? Well, no. We want to tailor this for your retirement, and we want to make sure you don't sacrifice your retirement for your kids' education and any other goal that you've got. So inflation, to your point, I think plays a big part of that, but also today's consumer mentality to spend, and not save is really costing people dearly in terms of really accumulating true wealth.
Derrick, and to that point and to that perspective, we live in a generation, and I guess to some degree I'm guilty of this. I don't really care what it costs. How much does it cost me a month? Can I manage to cash flow that into my salary? How big a detriment has that been to the advancement of prosperity amongst, in whatever income bracket you're in? When we think about, not what the house costs, but what is the payment? Not what the BMW or Mercedes costs, what is the payment? What are the afflictions that go along with living your life based on what is going out of the door in payments?
Well, I think that is a key point in terms of many people don't realize what their true debt load is. They only look at, can I make the monthly payment, be it for the car, the house, the electric bills, the tuition for the kids, all those types of things. And what I encourage people to do is to write it out. I call it a financial x-ray, to write out exactly where you stand today, what do I owe minus what I own, and that tells us what our net worth is, whether it's positive or negative. And that's going to tell us pretty quick in the big picture, the report card of our finances, are we passing or are we failing? And to your point, I think it's important for people to look at what money am I shelling out every month, and am I getting value for that? Am I throwing money out every month where it's depreciating and I'm really not building my wealth? Or am I putting an equal amount into my 401k or a savings plan where I'm really building up wealth and taking control of my money? It's very important for people to take some time out of their day-to-day busyness and look at, how am I taking care of myself financially?
Derrick, my last question would be this. If you're someone who has made the sorts of mistakes, and we all make mistakes, I've made numerous mistakes in my financial life, accepting the fact that you've made the mistakes and understanding the consequences of the mistakes seems to me kind of a liberating place to land. What are things we need to do after we accept the fact that we've made these mistakes as it relates to finance in our personal lives?
Well, I'm a big proponent of owning it, taking responsibility for good or bad, what you've done, and learning from that. And I like what you just said there. To become rich, there is a formula to do it. The problem is it just takes hard work to do it. And there's 3 steps, 3 levers that people can use. One is to save a lot more. 2 is to spend a lot less. And 3 is to earn a lot more. Now, of those 3, typically spending a lot less is the most controllable of those areas. And so people that come to my office and say, look, I'm behind the curve, I want to get back on track financially, we talk about how do we cut their expenses and really cut it as deep as possible and then capture those dollars, those savings, and put those toward long-term growth areas for retirement so that we're capturing that money. That tends to help them make up lost time and build their confidence that they can achieve what they want.
Very helpful. Thank you, Derrick. Appreciate your time this morning.
My pleasure, Ken. Anytime.
Thank you very much.